Welcome to The Explainer. Right, so today we're unpacking an absolutely gorgeous, honestly deeply moving narrative called The Heart's Postponed Echoes. I'll be your observant narrator today, taking you through a truly heartfelt discovery. It's a journey that really digs into love, the sheer heavy burden of grief, and, well, the incredible power of figuring out how to put one foot in front of the other and move forward. It's fundamentally about all those little things we leave unsaid because we just assume, oh, we've got plenty of time, right? So let's dive right in.
In Clara's house, silence had become a permanent guest. After losing her husband Julian, Clara's world just kind of stopped. Her kids lived far away, and sure, they called, but they had their own lives to live. And Clara, being Clara, didn't want to be a burden. But man, the result of that was just this heavy, literal, crushing silence. We're talking about those nights where the ticking of the clock is so loud it practically echoes. It was just this constant, glaring reminder of that one empty chair sitting at the table.
Section 1. The Weight of Silence.
So, to really wrap our heads around the magnitude of Clara's grief, we have to look at the sheer weight of time. 42. When you build a life with someone, they aren't just a person who's suddenly gone. It's like a missing half of your actual daily existence. For 42 years, Clara and Julian shared literally everything. We're talking the beautiful, mundane rhythm of life, Morning coffees, silly bickering over the TV remote, those slow evening walks as the sun went down, even the shared stress over money when things were tight. 42 years of just constant, unwavering partnership.
But then, contrasting that massive lifetime of partnership, we have another number, 20. See, completely unbeknownst to Clara, there was this massive, hidden timeline running right alongside her marriage. 20 years of secrets, just quietly waiting in the dark to be discovered.
Section 2. The Discovery in the Attic.
So, desperate to escape that deafening silence we talked about, Clara decides to head up and organize the dusty old attic, just looking for a distraction among decades of memories, really. Up there, she spots this small brown suitcase covered in dust, and she knows it instantly because it has this broken zipper. It was Julian's. Now, when she slowly opens it up, it's mostly just stuff. Old documents, receipts, some rusty tools. Totally mundane. But then, tucked right in the middle of all that normal, everyday clutter, was a small metal box. And it was carefully tied with a red ribbon. You can imagine Clara just freezing for a second, right?
Well, when she finally unties that ribbon and opens the box, her heart must have absolutely skipped a beat. Inside are dozens of carefully arranged envelopes, and on every single one, in Julian's unmistakable handwriting, is the exact same name. For Clara. I mean, just imagine that rush of emotion, finding a direct, hidden line of communication from the person you miss the absolute most.
She reaches in, pulls out the very first letter, and looks at the date. March 12th, 2003. Exactly 20 years ago. Boom. That perfectly matches that hidden 20-year timeline we mentioned a minute ago. So with trembling hands, she unfolds the paper.
And the letter starts like this. Clara, if you ever read this, I will probably no longer be with you. There are things I never knew how to say looking into your eyes. In it, Julian explains that he actually started writing these letters after a scare with his heart. His doctors had warned him about his fragile health, but, and here's the kicker, he made a conscious choice to completely hide it from her. He wanted to protect his family from worrying. So instead of talking about it, he just poured all his unspoken fears and thoughts onto these pages.
Section 3. The Hidden Truths.
As Claire keeps reading, she realizes each letter is documenting these incredibly specific, poignant memories, like the exact day their daughter was born, or that one year they pretended having a simple Christmas was totally by choice. And this is where we see this massive gap between perception and reality. For decades, Clara firmly believed her husband was this unwavering, unbreakable pillar of strength. But Julian's reality? Totally different. Actually, he was often terrified.
In fact, he confesses in one of the letters, I never told you this because I was ashamed, but there were months when I went out walking at dawn just to think about how to pay the debts without losing the house. This one confession just completely shattered Clara's illusion of him. Julian wasn't fearless at all. He harbored immense fear, carrying the entire weight of their survival squarely on his own shoulders just to protect her. And he was observing her, too, in ways she never even realized. In another letter, he writes about a specific afternoon when Clara was crying alone in the kitchen, feeling really anxious about getting older. Julian wrote that he had actually stood out in the hallway, just listening to her, loving her so fiercely in secret, but literally not knowing how to walk in and bridge that gap. It's just such a deeply touching picture of this quiet, watchful love.
Section 4. The most important letter.
Okay, so Clara is weeping in the attic, right? The realization hitting her that her husband was just as vulnerable as she is. But then she notices one final piece of the puzzle. There's one envelope physically separated from all the rest. It doesn't have a date. It just has this simple label written right across the front. The most important one. You can practically feel her having to take a long, deep breath before she could finally bring herself to open this one.
Inside, Julian talks about his lifelong struggle to fix everything on his own, to shield her from every pain. But then he writes this: "People don't need perfect lives to be happy. They need to feel accompanied. You did that for me my whole life." Wow. I mean, in those words, Julian is revealing that despite his constant effort to be the unbreakable provider, her simple, everyday companionship, that had always been his absolute greatest source of strength.
Which brings us to a really profound question. What was the one final thing a man would leave for the love of his life after 42 years together? If he knew she'd be reading this totally alone, sitting in an empty house, what would be his parting instructions?
Well, he left her this absolutely beautiful set of rules for living. He wrote, "Do not waste the years you have left locked in sadness." He told her she had to laugh again, to talk to strangers, to travel, even if it scared her. And very specifically, he begged her to listen to music while cooking. He wrote, "The house feels too empty without that." Basically, he was directly handing her permission to banish the silent ghost of grief from their home.
Section 5. The End of Silence.
As Clara read those final words, she just broke down. But it is so crucial to understand exactly why she was crying. She wasn't weeping from that sharp, hollow, isolating pain of grief anymore. No, this was an overwhelming realization. She finally understood just how completely she had been loved and understood. Yes, sure, she mourned the things they had left unsaid because they both foolishly thought, oh, there's always more time. But right there, sitting in the dust of the attic, she didn't feel alone anymore. Even in death, Julian was right there, actively accompanying her.
That very night, Clara comes down from the attic carrying that little metal box. She walks right into the kitchen, a room that had been just oppressively quiet for months now. And she does something she literally hasn't done since he died. She reaches out and she turns on the dusty kitchen radio. And as if by total fate, the very first notes that flowed into the room belonged to the exact same song they danced to at their wedding.
Clara just smiles through her tears. That heavy, suffocating silence, completely broken. The music literally brought life and memory and Julian's presence right back into the center of her world. And for the first time in a long, long time, the house stopped feeling empty. It's just a beautifully cathartic ending, isn't it? Which leaves a final, pretty profound question for all of us to chew on. What unspoken words are you saving for when there's more time? And who needs to hear your music today? Seriously, don't postpone your love. Don't let silence become a permanent guest in your life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this story stays with you as powerfully as it has with me.